So, what's the hardest thing you've ever done? This particular woman came in and said, birth 3 babies, all natural. And with this question, just want to preface and say that, you know, the hardest thing you've ever done varies drastically. I think we've seen that from the answers given, you know. There's physically, mentally, spiritually, like what um, the hardest thing for somebody could not be the hardest thing for somebody else. But, anyways, I just kind of want to share my thoughts on the whole birthing deal. So, women say birthing babies is hard. And I gotta say, I'm not buying it at all. I think it's a super simple process and we overcomplicated it. And I'll just give you an example. The one I know is my mother. She had 5 kids, including me, and I'm the second oldest. So she had my older brother and then me. And then she said, I don't need to go to the hospital for this anymore. I'm going to do the rest at home. And so she continued to have the rest of my siblings all born at home. And my youngest brother was actually born after she had her tubes tied, which is a whole nother deal. She's super fertile, I guess. So, or was. Which leads me to my point. I think the birthing process, a lot of people say it's beautiful. Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is beautiful. Being out in nature, seeing the mountains is beautiful. Watching a baby born into this earth is by no means beautiful. It is absolutely disgusting and traumatic, especially for men. And so when my mother birthed my younger siblings at home, we were there. We were basically forced to watch this whole process. And I would just go hide behind the couch, and my older brother, I believe, lost consciousness all 3 times and developed a fear for blood that even, plagues him in his adulthood because of it. And meanwhile, my mother's just over there squirting out babies like it's no big deal. She actually invited out all the ladies from church, our little church in Arkansas. All the ladies would come out and watch her give birth because she was showing them how easy it really is. And so, you can, I just, I think people accept this lie that birthing babies is difficult. And I'm just throwing an argument out there that I have, evidence that I've experienced in my life that tells me otherwise. These things were so traumatic that luckily on the last one, these events became so popular that I had to go out and direct traffic for parking on our property for the last one. So I was wearing an orange vest, and I think I had maybe a glow stick or something, and I was out there directing traffic around our little basketball court, trying to get people to park on the lawn. And there definitely came a period where there was no more cars coming, and I was like, I'm gonna just kind of hang out here in case any more cars come. So I think I was a little better at hiding than my older brother during these. But yeah, point is, it's super easy. Women used to just go out and, have these babies together. And I really don't think men are supposed to be there. Which leads me to my next story. So in the special operations medic course, we learn to deliver babies. And this is for when we're deployed around the world in austere villages and environments where there's not, a midwife or hospital or someone else to do this. And a pregnant lady comes to us and we have to deliver a baby. We need to know how. So I think we spend a total of like 2 days on this in the course. And the first day's in the classroom and they're given a class and they thought the instructors basically think it's funny to fuck with us. And so they put on a video of a home birth. And this was way worse than the home births that I even experienced. It was like a camcorder video from the 70s. It's this hippie couple doing a home birth, and she's like laying in bed, and there's just so much hair. There's just so much hair in the situation. The husband's there, or partner, and they're making out during the delivery of this baby because I guess they want it to come into a loving environment or something. But he's pretty much got a fro, and not wearing a shirt, of course, and has like a hairy back and hairy chest and arms. And so I don't watch this. I go, I've already seen this in my childhood. What little parts I saw, I didn't enjoy or basically was traumatizing. So why would I do that now? So I decided to draw in my notebook or something while they were playing this video. And so fast forward. So then we go into a little practical application of this where we get that hands-on training, which I love. And so we have these little mannequins that's like the hip, upper leg area and belly of a pregnant woman, but it's all rubber mannequin. And so you basically just have a huge, or not huge, but just kind of rubber vagina opening. And one guy stands on that side and the other, your partner stands on one side and you stand on the other. And one of you has the baby with a little cord and it has a little button attached to its belly button. And you just, and then you attach it to the inside of her and you push the baby through the opening and your partner's on the other side to go through the techniques of delivering this baby. And me and my partner are not taking this seriously at all. We are having fun and seeing how many times we can wrap the cord around the head. And I'm trying to shove this baby through and he's trying to pull from the other side. And it's not going anywhere because I wrapped it around too many times. So there's not enough slack for it to come out. And so we're laughing about this, having a good time. And all of a sudden, the wise sage instructor comes by. He's got like white hair, kind of balding. He looks like Gandalf or something. He's probably a medic back in World War I in the trenches or something. Who knows? He looks like a ghost. Maybe he was like the ghost of medic past coming to visit us. But he's kind of walking by with his hands behind his back, strolling by. And he stops at our table as we're just laughing, joking, playing with this fake baby. And he's like, hey guys, you might want to take this seriously. You might have to do this someday. And we laughed. Ha 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 ha. I won't have to do this. Well, fast forward about a month. I found myself on medical rotations in a hospital. And the way it worked is we spend half the time in the hospital rotating through different departments. A majority of the time was spent in the emergency room doing procedures. And we would go out with the fire department and work with the paramedics and doing calls. And so I was having a great time. And I was getting a lot of medical procedures in, was doing a really good job at them, did a bunch of chest tubes, um, did a bunch of intubations, central lines, and all that sexy stuff, traction splints, and um, helping scrubbing on surgeries and stuff. It was fun. And then I looked at my schedule, and the next day it said labor and delivery. So, not really thinking much of it. I was like, oh, okay. I got this. So, that was kind of my attitude during this period. So, I go up to labor delivery that morning or the next day, and I show up. And when you walk into a department in the hospital, there's the nurse's desk, and they're kind of all sitting back down behind there. And I walk up, and I'm kind of standing on the outside, and they're looking up at these TV screens. And so the doctor comes out, and one of them's briefing, and they're saying, hey, we got, this many, 3 C-sections, blah, 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 blah. And then we got 5 vag deliveries. And I start cracking up. And they all kind of look at each other, look at me, and I realize they're not joking. They just use the term vag. Seriously. And it's not a joke. So quickly I said, yeah, I was just, thinking about a joke my buddies told me earlier this morning. And so they kind of ignore me and kind of shake me off and, go back to their brief and everything. And so after the brief continues, or comes to an end, there's this short doctor that came out, and he comes around and he comes up to me and he goes, with the little pistol hands, he goes, you ready? And I give him the pistol hands back and I go, yeah. He's like, all right, this way. So we will start walking down the hall, and I start following him. And we go in a room. I turn into the room. There is a woman, full-blown, pregnant, getting ready to have deliver a baby, or give birth to a baby. And they have her on the birthing table, already legs spread, splayed open. There's her vagina just hanging out for the whole world to see. And I get gowns and glove. It's important to note for later. So I get gowns and gloves on. I go in there and I'm going, it's not, hey, just watch this one and then you'll do the next one. It is, you're going. And so I find myself in the quarterback position behind my center, which is her, and getting ready to catch this baby. And so in my mind, I've been telling myself, even when I saw labor and delivery on the schedule, I go, no big deal. All you have to do is not drop the baby. Like, if you can just not drop a baby, you'll be fine, right? But if you drop the baby, then, it can look really bad, right? Even though they're super resilient. So that was my main goal. That was what was kind of going through my head at that point. And so as I walk up, I'm getting under center, and they start jacking the table up. So now this gaping vagina starts rising up. And now it's like right in front of my face. They jack this table way up. Because there's short doctors, short nurses, so it's like usually down. So I just have to watch this thing like slowly getting closer and closer to my face. And so luckily, as I mentioned before, I have this sort of photographic memory, and I could remember seeing the book pages about, delivering children from like reading before the tests and everything. And I could remember the processes by kind of like seeing the textbook in my mind. And so I was like, oh yeah, okay, so apply. So the head was starting to come out. Like, this is fucking happening right fucking now. And I was like, okay, apply slight back pressure. Boom. So I have my little hand or big hand on, little baby's head and applying slight back pressure. So it's not like an explosive childbirthing. Like, you don't want anything to be explosive, apparently. So, I'm starting to work the process, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got to get, clear the first shoulder and then, the other one. And I was like, but once that second one comes, it's coming. So I got to be ready, and I'm not going to drop this little motherfucker. So, boom. After that shoulder clears, boom. This baby's out, dude. It comes. Once that shoulder clears, it is coming. You have imminent slimy baby flying out, okay? So if you ever find yourself in this situation, be ready when that shoulder clears. It comes out. I got a death grip on this baby. I have it. Like, this baby is not dropping. It is not going anywhere other than in my careful, protective, strong grip. And I'm remembering the steps. They're all coming back to me. It's all coming back to me now. So I grab the suction. Boom. Suction it out. Throw it up. Boom. Pat, 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 pat. Wah. Baby's first breath. Tears. Crying. The baby has been just given life. I brought this baby into the world and essentially gave it its first breath. I feel like $1 million at this point. I did this. And I'm looking around, and quickly the baby's taken from me by a nurse, and they, wrap it up and throw it in the incubator. And so I'm looking around just like, as if I just hit a home run, kind of like waving to the crowd type deal, if there was one. But I look around and I make my way around the room looking at all the approving looks, and I start to make my exit. Started walking out of the room. This is done, right? Baby's in the nurse's, loving care. The woman, are taking care of the baby, and it's in the incubator. It's getting its tan on. I'm done. I'm out of here. Boom. So as I'm walking out, feeling like $1 million, there's Mr. Pistols McGee himself, the doctor. Throws me the pistols. Hey, where you going? This isn't over yet. And I'm kind of like, what do you mean this isn't over? And he goes, pew, pew, the afterbirth. And all of a sudden, my brain starts clicking in. Oh, yeah. What's on that next page in the textbook? Boom. Oh, yeah. The afterbirth. So I turn around. Sure enough, dangling out of the gaping vagina is the cord, right? The dad had come in, cut the cord. But the rest of the cord was just hanging there. I'm like, oh, yeah, we got to get that placenta out. So I go up, back in it. Ready for my second hike. So I was like, oh, yeah. So I grabbed this thing, and the nurse, obviously saw that I was kind of clueless in this process. And she goes, all right, hey, grab it. And I remember like, oh, yeah, I'm going to pull on the cord slightly. And she goes, yeah, so apply slight pressure. And so you put it, she told me like use Spock hands, right? Like between your middle and ring finger. And so I clamp them in there, clamp the cord in there, and I'm applying slight pressure. To me, I'm thinking slight. And to me, I know I break things very easily. I'm kind of, constantly always running into walls, running into things. Things don't really last in my care very long. I tend to break things. I'm just kind of a rough guy. So when I think of slight pressure, I'm like, I need to go itsy bitsy micro pressure to you, dude. Like, really dial it down. So I'm just slight pressure, little bit of a pull. And she goes, no, like this, and puts her hand on mine and proceeds to push on it to apply the pressure that she wanted me to be applying. And the pressure she wanted me to be applying felt like I was starting a fucking lawnmower. Like, fucking yanking on this motherfucker cord. And it's about this point when shit went blurry. Things get foggy in my memory at this point. Now imagine, this is the best way I can describe this. Imagine you're fishing downstream from a huge fucking dam, like Hoover Dam. And you can't see it, but you know you're downstream from it. It's a big fucking dam. And maybe there's like, you're around the river bend. You hear a huge explosion upstream where the dam is. And you know you are fucked. That feeling of impending doom that you would have in that situation is sort of what I was feeling as I was lawnmower pulling this cord. And so inside this black hole of her vagina that was huge and gaping, wide open, because a baby just came out of it. It's a very traumatic process, as I mentioned earlier. As if there was a demon inside of her with a 5-gallon bucket full of blood, birthing fluid, yellow pussy stuff. You don't even want to know what was inside of her, and went, yeah, and tossed the bucket's contents out of the vagina. There was as if a fire hose had been turned on. Explosion of this fluid out of her vagina and coming towards my face. Everything slowed down. The next time I had this feeling was when I was in combat, and everything slowed down when I was getting, PKM or AK rounds all around me. Same type of feeling. This deadly substance is blasting towards my face. I matrixed. Move my head out of the way. The contents hits my shoulder. Goes all the way down my legs. Pouring on my legs and onto my shoe. Now, for reasons I won't get into, for whatever reason, I was shaving my legs at this time. I think I was like doing some swimming and stuff because I was getting ready to go to dive school. We'll just use that as an excuse. So on my shaved legs, this bloody fluid that just came exploding out of this woman's vagina has now soaked through my scrub pants and is running down my freshly shaved legs. It has soaked through my new pair of running shoes in the toe, and it has soaked through my socks, and I can feel it pulling up between my toes. I am in complete shock at this point. I look around the room for answers, for help, from anybody that can explain to me what the fuck just happened and what is currently happening down my leg and in between my toes. Mind you, I was wearing a gown and gloves. I look around and I'm seeing people in face masks, face shields, and booties covering their legs. I look around the room and I see blank stares. The nurses are in just as much shock as me, if not more, because I'm actually kind of moving on and looking, hey, what's going on here? and I'm just seeing blank faces staring at me. Finally, I catch eyes with one, and she goes, waving her finger. It normally doesn't happen that bad. It normally doesn't happen that bad. So I continue to turn around. There's Pistols McGee. He's got the placenta right on the surgical, platter, and he's digging his pistol fingers in it, just like, hey, look at this, look at that. This is all normal, blah, blah, blah. And people eat this thing, apparently. Hey, I don't know. I'm not going to judge. Maybe it's good for you. If I was going to do it, it would probably be in if you could dehydrate that motherfucker and grind it down into powder form, because I can't imagine trying to cook that thing. And definitely not medium rare, dude. Ugh. Yeah, I think dehydrating it would be the best way to go. But regardless, I'm in shock from what just happened. I'm still feeling the squishy between my toes and the drippy down my legs. And the family seems, happy with the whole process and that they have their baby and everything. And so everything's being cleaned up at this point, and I walk out of the room. And I'm standing there again, kind of wondering, what do I do now about my situation? And one of the nurses, I go, hey, kind of stopped her. She's trying to go on about her business. I was like, hey, what do I do? And she goes, I don't know, and walks off. And maybe I deserve some of that, but I proceeded to walk back in the back behind the nurses' deal where they keep all the supplies, and I found the booties that everybody else was happily wearing and failed to make sure I was, and slipped on one booty over my disgusting leg and shoe and walked down to the ER. Going completely internal at this point. The nurses that I've been working with, the week prior saw me, and they knew I was in the hurt locker. They're like, oh my God, what just happened to you? And I told them, and they're like, oh, you poor thing. They genuinely felt bad for me. And they said, here, let me see your shoe. They took my shoe and started to wash it off in the, scrub station. And they said, I was like, oh, no. You don't have to do that. That shoe is dead to me. I'm throwing away the shoe. These shoes are gone. And they're like, oh no, this happens all the time. You just clean them. And so she kept on trying to clean them, but I was, and I was wearing some little sandals that they give you out in the ER if you don't have shoes. And luckily our instructor from the schoolhouse that's down there kind of mentoring us was there, and he allowed me to go home for the day. He actually drove me home. He felt so bad for me from the traumatic experience I just survived. And I took about 5 scolding hot showers the rest of the day to get the nasty birthing crud off of me. Which leads me to my point. Men don't belong anywhere in the birthing process. I believe it is a sacred right of women. It's obviously super easy, like I told you from a woman's perspective from my mother. The woman that was delivering this baby had no problems. It was super easy for her. It was super traumatic for me. It was probably super traumatic for the father. You can lie to yourself and say it's beautiful all you want, but it is not a beautiful process. I think the man should not be there. The father of that child should be at the cigar bar with his buddies, celebrating that they're now having a child in this earth. And the first time they see that child, they see it, and it's already got its little tan on from the incubator machine. It's all snuggled up in this little blanket, and it's all cute. And the father can immediately have those instinctual father loving feelings for this child. See, men don't have the mother instincts. A mother's going to love this child all the way through this process. She just carried, essentially a parasite in her for 9 months, give or take a few. And it takes a special amount of love that I don't think we have as men. And so why force a man or have the expectation of a man to be there just to get traumatized? I don't think so. I think it's a bad idea. I think we used to not do this. I think women used to gather together and go through this process together, away from the men. And I think that's the way we should be doing it. So, birthing 3 babies, all natural, I get it. Things are hard for different people for different reasons, and I don't know, maybe there's, people have complications and stuff like that too. But I would argue childbirth is super easy, and men shouldn't be anywhere near it. Oh, man. Let me know what you think in the comments. So,